We've done a lot of work. We've made our design for our scene in Photoshop, which is this PSD file, scene3choice.psd. This has been our working file for trying to just get the design for this scene right, work out the colors and the layout and all that sort of stuff. But now we need to get out these various layers from the Photoshop document into separate PNG files. And those separate PNG files are going to be our assets for our hype animation project. So for instance, this head document, this head layer is going to be one asset, and the background is going to be a separate asset with this hue saturation over it. Another asset will be this button which says this button that says try the door with the arrow over it, so there's going to be two layers in that asset. Anyway, you get the idea. We want to actually break up this document into several pieces that we can then reassemble when we get to hype. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and it's pretty easy. There's various ways you could do this, but this is the quickest workflow that I've found for getting assets into hype. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get this head over part into hype. Eventually, sort of head and then head over are going to be an animated button where you roll over it and this mouth kind of opens like that. It would be a bit funny. But anyway, we just want this layer. Option click the eyeball. So I get this layer separate. And I'm now going to use this function, image trim, and select transparent pixels. What that will do is it'll crop away all of the transparent pixels around the head, sort of until we've got a sort of oblong shaped, a rectangular shaped image I can use as for an image on its own. So go OK, and that's given me a nice crop all the way to the edges of my image. Now I'm going to go File, Save for Web. The shortcut for this is Option Shift Command S, which I have gotten to the habit of using, so I'm just going to use that. Often Shift Command S. Okay. Now, when we get the Save for Web window open, there's only really a couple of things you need to check. First of all, out of this list of possible image types, we want PNG 24 selected, and we want to make sure that the transparency checkbox is on. So we're going to end up with an image, solid image with transparent areas. Okay, once those are checked, I'm going to hit save, and I am going to make a new folder called Assets in my folder, which is on the desktop Photoshop Workshop. We're going to make a new folder called Assets. So let's just click on this button, New Folder, Assets. And I'm going to call this new asset head over.png and hit save. Now if we go to the Finder and I go to the desktop Photoshop Workshop Assets, there's my head over. I can click on it, and this is a Macintosh operating system helper thing. If I hit the space bar, it gives me a preview of my asset. Then I can hit the space bar again to put that away. So there we are. I've created my first hype asset. Let's go back to Photoshop. Now this is important. Make sure you undo the trim action that we just did. I'm just going to open up my history palette, and just to show you, you can just go back to just make sure you go back. You get rid of the trim feature, and then turn on your layers again. So there we are. The other way, I'm just going to redo the trim. Sorry, I'm just going to hide those layers, redo the trim by stepping forward, Okay, so I can actually just go Command Option Z to undo. That's probably what you're going to do. I just wanted to show you it in the history palette so you can see that the trim is being undone there. So we've got our document back, and I could turn on a different asset. Let's output the try the door button, which is going to have this arrow over it as well. So I'm going to again go Image, Trim, Transparent Pixels, Save for Web, PNG, Transparency, that should already be checked because that's what we did last time, and hit Save. And again, in my Assets folder, I'm going to make this try button.png, save. Okay, and before I go anywhere, let's just undo that trim that I just did. So Command Option Z, there we are, turn my layers back on, and we are ready to go again. So let's just go back to the Finder. In my Assets folder, I've now got headover.png, trybutton.png. Fantastic. Okay, the last thing I want to show you, just as a little preview of what we're going to be doing when we get to Hype. Let's just open up Hype from the dock. And the way that you get assets into Hype is, if I've got the Finder here, I can just click and drag the assets into a Hype project, and they are ready to be animated and used. But we will get onto that in the next lot of screencasts. In the meantime, here we are back in Photoshop, and you've now got all the skills you need in order to create assets for your Hype projects. So get used to creating a Photoshop working document for each scene so you can experiment with your designs and colors and layout and manipulate your assets, and then export from your PSD to separate PNG files, which can then be dragged into Hype and used for your animations and interactions. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this little introduction to Photoshop, and next video we'll be moving on to Hype.